And finally, we'll be speaking with Linda Davis, who came to the Women's Symposium at Boise State University. Linda is an executive coach and facilitator and speaker who tries to bring together both the personal and the business to raise awareness for people to find their own identity and pursuing their highest calling.
Today on Our Voice, we are thrilled to have Linda Davis with Linda Davis Leadership Development and just hear about her courage and her passion to empower women. Linda, thank you for joining us.
It's a privilege to be here. Thank you, Kim.
We're so glad to have you. So you've been on this incredible journey to empower women. Did you always want to do this type of work?
It really came out of a necessity and a need. I worked at HP in a senior leadership team, and I was the only woman on that team. And I found myself being very lonely. I didn't have any mentors. I didn't have any sponsors, whether they were men or women. Nobody that would kind of help me navigate the ropes of being the only woman in management. And it was really out of a desire to make that different for other women that I got into this.
So was there a certain point where you thought, okay, instead of managing in corporate America, I want to empower other women to build them into leaders in corporate America?
There really was, and I loved developing leaders as a second level director or vice president. Mm-hmm. And there was a moment when I wasn't able to give up those gifts. I wasn't able to develop leaders because of all the other demands of the job. Mm-hmm. And so that was sort of the pivotal moment to say, I'm going to jump out of this corporate scene and jump into the pool of doing it on my own. So.
Wow. So it sounds like you almost had to kind of coach yourself at that point because you were your first client.
Actually, I did have a coach. I had an executive coach. She was a woman. She was older than I was, and she helped me to discover those passions and gifts and what I was really good at. And to some degree, say, you really might want to try this on your own. She inspired me to become a coach because she was a coach.
Also, I think it's interesting, we hear about coaches a lot now, not only in sports, but life coaches, business coaches. So you're a senior executive coach. So what sets you apart in that? And it sounds like you really try to target and identify specific things you can do.
What makes me unique, Kim, I think, is this. And coaching, as you know, is really a guided discovery process where you help a client get to an end result. And what makes me unique is I have two sides of that coaching equation. And one of them is incredibly personal. And you would call it life coaching or maybe ministry, but it's dealing with our hearts, particularly as women. And that's exploring how to get rid of the negative thinking that we have, how to break off the lies that we've come to believe about ourselves and our own capability.
I know that you mentioned sometimes replaying the tape over. I've heard you say that before.
We ruminate on the mistakes we've made. We believe things that people have said over us and we take them on as our identity. So I help women get rid of those things and to break off some of the fears that we carry and the burden of being perfectionistic.
You're right.
So those heart issues and getting women to a place where they can say, I've got what it takes, I'm confident, I know who has my back, I can move forward and try something in a positive direction after getting rid of some of those more challenging things. Right. And on the other side of the equation, I work as more of a consultant, and I work and help people and advise people, which is not really coaching, on skill development, how to help them negotiate for things, how to develop executive presence.
Do you have an example where you started in a situation and maybe it was starting off slowly or poorly, but then you were able to kind of turn it around?
Yeah, that's related to what I love about leadership development in the broadest sense for all leaders, men and women. And that is helping leaders launch. I mean, that sounds a little bit corny, but watching leaders launch into who they're meant to be, their true destiny, if you will, but also watch them thrive in that role. And what I mean by that is it really comes down to being perhaps a servant leader with your employees, which is the alignment that says, if I'm your boss, I want to care as a leader about what you care about. I want to figure out how my goals for you and my goals for the organization line up with what you care about. And that's employee engagement. And that's when the heart connect, the trust builds, and the potential for great results is really released.
Right.
And for women, we need to realize that we need to do that not only with our employees as leaders, but we need to do it with our bosses. And this is an area that I have found women are just unaware of. They're unaware of the need to align with what their boss's goals are and make sure that there's an integration. And if they don't have a boss that reaches down, they've got to be the one that reaches up. And it applies to peers as well.
You know, Linda, I love that you have a specific dream statement. I want to read it and then ask you about it. Linda, your dream is that all women and men be confident in their identity, value, and worth, and courageous in pursuing their highest calling and their best life path. I just love that. What message do you have for a woman who might be watching right now who feels like she doesn't have the confidence to live out that dream? What could be her first step?
You know, lots of us have been wounded in life and been disappointed, and we've had our expectations shattered of other people. And usually when somebody has a setback and they don't feel like they can move forward in their life, I say, you know, take a big breath. Take a big breath and step back. And if somebody's experienced a lot of hardship or disappointment, I think it's important for them to kind of shake off the negative about that. And that could be needing to forgive somebody who's wronged them or fired them or let them down. And sometimes it's about forgiving ourselves and realizing that, you know what, we did the best we can, but we fell short.
Thank you so much for being here. Your passion is just infectious, and it's also just real. You know, it resonates with people, so we can figure out what that next step is. So thank you so much. Last thing I'd like you to do is just share how people can contact you or learn more about Linda Davis Leadership Development.
Well, thank you, Kim. Yes, you can email me at linda@ldavisleadership.com or follow us on Twitter at LD Leadership. And I'm happy to connect up with anybody on LinkedIn as well.
Awesome. So thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And we'll be back with more on Our Voice.
Thanks so much for joining us here on Our Voice, and we'd love to see you on our social media. So we have a Facebook page called Our Voice Idaho. Please visit us there, comment on our links, but you can personal message us and share your stories of inspiration and advocacy.
That's right. Your voice matters on Our Voice. Thanks for watching.